Sally Al Hosaini, it is such an honor to be speaking with you. Thank you so much for speaking with the Nerds of Color today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, first, I want to say Mabruk on the film. I absolutely loved it. What initially drew you to the story of the Mardini sisters, and how did you and Jack Thorne approach writing the story?
Yeah, so it was Yusra and Sarah themselves. I mean, when I Googled them and saw who they were and what they were about, it was a no-brainer for me. They reminded me of me and the people that I knew, my friends growing up in Cairo in the 90s. And it was just so exciting, this idea of making complex heroes of these modern, liberal, young, like Arab women.
Yeah, at its core, this is a story that's about the bond between these real life sisters. So, please elaborate on that. What was important for you to convey about their relationship, and how are the sisters themselves involved in the filmmaking?
So Yusra and Sarah have been involved in the film since the beginning, since before I came on board. And Jack was extremely collaborative. He saw quite quickly that I had a lot of opinions, and I began wading in on the script and doing rewrites with him and bringing a lot of my own experiences and ideas to the movie as well. And Yusra and Sarah were on my WhatsApp. One of the first things I did was go and visit them in Berlin and meet them and talk to them about the film. And they were just instrumental in the process. Sven as well, he was someone I could really lean on to fact check things, ask for photographs, so many ways that they were helpful. So they were involved in the process as we went along, even down to like the first time I met Yusra and Sarah, I asked them for their playlists and, was asking Yusra, what is the music you listen to when you want to start getting like motivated to train and what lifts you up, and that's where the seer in the movie came from, for example. So yeah, they were involved from the beginning.
Yeah, and it just felt so personal watching the film throughout. I'm curious if there's one particular shoot you found particularly interesting or difficult that really strikes out at you that you filmed.
um Well, just going back quickly to the sisterhood, I mean, I'm a big sister and a little sister, and it was important to me that the sister story and that relationship between sisters, essentially, it's a love story between sisters, and that was like the heart of the movie, because that's what I knew would make it universal. It's so easy to access this story of refugees and to look at refugees as other, as someone else, and I knew it was that universal sibling relationship that was going to allow an audience in, no matter who they were. Everybody was going to be able to relate to. So that's what we tried to put at the forefront of the film. Um, and yeah, in terms of a favorite scene, that's a really hard question. So many that I love, and that the whole team worked so hard to achieve. I can't say there's one.
Yeah, there's so many beautiful shots in this film, especially like while I will say it's showing the refugee journey. And what was important to you and the team about showing such a visceral and real experience that refugees of the global south must still undergo? And this is something I love that you conveyed in the film, Western countries' response to them or lack of response thereof.
Yeah, so there was a responsibility to tell a much larger story than just Yusra and Sarah's story. As inspirational as Yusra and Sarah are, they're truly heroic, the two of them. And Sarah also, an unsung hero. Her decision to go back to Lesbos and help people, I find that so heroic. And yet they are unique because they are the 1%. They are that slightly, well, not for Sarah now, but that happier ending, story. And I was mindful that for the 99%, that isn't always the experience. And that was where, in the character of Nizar, for example, and the other group of refugees that travel with them, I was mindful to show the diversity of that refugee experience. And it was important that the audience weren't objective observers on the outside watching and judging, because we're used to taking that role when we see images of overcrowded dinghies and crossings and those images on the news. The term refugees becomes so politicized now. You talk about refugees in terms of numbers, but numbers have a numbness to them. And it's in cinema that you can humanize. It's in cinema that you can really be on that journey with those characters. And my aspiration was for the audience to join the characters on that journey and be with them as they decided to turn left or right and experience that journey with them. So all the creative decisions that were made to push away from those news images as much as we could, and to allow an audience in to the film, to be on the journey with the sisters. Down to what lenses we chose to use. You know, we chose these handmade lenses that had a lot of imperfections in them, so that it was not like the crisp news image lenses that you see those images with. And how the camera moved, that visceral feel of it, you know. Christopher Ross, who shot the film, you know, lost a lot of weight on this shoot. He called it the Sally Hosaini diet because he was having to be so like in the water, on the journey, on the train tracks with the camera. The camera really was like another character in the film and in the dinghy. And yet there were times when we needed to step back, and times when we needed to give context and to say, you are on this very specific story with these people, but there's also all these millions of others, whether it's through the life jacket shot, whether it's through the larger shots of them walking along the train tracks, where you want to lose them in the crowd of people getting off the ferry. And it just again to be reminded of the context and the numbers of people who are still taking this journey.
You made them so much more than a statistic that they're so often simply portrayed as. Knowing refugees all of my life, I am Kurdish American. My family's from Kurdistan in Iraq. Me and my immediate family, we weren't refugees, but we have family members that were. I know so many Arab and other Swana, Mina friends, South Asian who are refugees, and just seeing this story, yeah, I felt it so viscerally, like knowing that. I think it's going to be so important for so many more audiences to see. So, like you mentioned, Sada, right now, these frankly trumped up charges against her and her organization in the last few years, they're literally criminalizing saving people who still flee war and violence. So, do you hope that the film may be effective at changing more broader attitudes towards refugees that are still unfortunately demonized, with Islamophobia, with various forms of racism against Black and Brown people? That maybe we can start changing attitudes with these stories. Why do we need more of these refugee stories?
I hope so. I think that the world is such a divisive place right now with polarized views, and there's more empathy needed. There's more humanizing needed, because if there's one thing I want people to feel after watching this film, is that refugees are normal people just like you and me. I want people to see in Yusra and Sarah their sisters, their daughters, their nieces, their cousins. I want them to be able to relate to them on a human level, and to understand that refugees, don't come from one place on this globe. With the climate crisis, there are going to be more refugees. It's not just because of war. It's not just the global south. There are many reasons why people have to leave their homes. There are many reasons for displacement. And as a globe, we're all part of the story. We aren't just objective observers outside of this situation. We're all participants in this. And the more we can break down those barriers and show the similarities we have with each other, rather than focusing on our differences, the more we can come up with a global response to this issue that isn't new. You look at America, England, these countries, everybody are the great grandchildren of refugees themselves. The Huguenots were refugees that came to the UK, and how many British people born and bred are descendants of them. I think we need to think globally about these things, rather than putting up walls and divisions and borders.
Absolutely, 1,000% cosign. On a much lighter topic,
Yeah.
so something else I really appreciate about this film, I'm a swimmer myself. I swam competitively in high school, and I just love watching swimming as a sport in the Olympics, especially. And I love the scenes you had in the pool and just making the act of swimming look so beautiful and flowing and just not static at all. So, what was it like filming those swimming scenes in general? And what was it like working with swim coach Adele Carlson on this?
Yeah, so it was very important to me that those swimming um, parts of the movie were also authentic, just as authentic as all of the other stuff I've been talking about. And so there were a whole team of swimming coaches, actually, not just Adele. I mean, the actresses that played Yusra and Sarah, Natalie and Manal, they couldn't swim when they started the movie, so they really threw themselves in and went to like swim boot camp and were training and swimming every day and showed such commitment to get to a level. And then we had a team of doubles. Yusra actually doubled for herself in the movie, um, and was Natalie's double, which was very meta and surreal experience for her. And it was important to for that to be portrayed authentically. But also I had this idea that everything above the water was objective reality, and everything underwater was a place of hopes and dreams and memories and nightmares and the subjective. And so there was this different world I wanted to create underwater.
It was so beautiful, I have to tell you that.
And I think that really helped tap into the more emotional aspects of the stories, certainly in The Crossing and when the mortar lands in the pool and all of those moments. Yeah, so that was the theory behind, the approach to like the underwater shots and swimming.
Just as a whole, this film is so beautiful on so many layers, and Mabruk and bravo to you and the entire cast and crew. So many people are going to love this film. And again, Sally Al Hosseini, thank you so, so much for speaking with the Nerds of Color today. And again, congratulations, and can't wait for everyone to see the film.
Thank you. I mean, it was a passionate group of people, it was an incredibly passionate crew and cast that came together. There were a lot of refugees who worked on the film behind the scenes. They were also cast in the movie. In the crossing scenes, there were refugees on that boat who'd taken the same journey themselves, acting in the movie. And everybody's hope with this movie would be that we could show the light in the darkness, not just to show a one-dimensional portrayal, but to show the humor as well, to show tonally, that people have hopes and dreams no matter who they are or where they're from.
And you absolutely achieved it. Again, thank you so, so much. And congratulations. And again, can't wait for everyone to see the film.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Take care.
Maybe a nerd who's just like you, talking about the things that you like too. So I invite you to the NOC. In full color, you see me. The hard knock life, comics, movies, and TV. Yeah, pop culture with a different perspective. Watch it on your screen, hit play, so check this.